Hello, and welcome to the Producers Guild conversation with the creative team behind Land. It is my pleasure to introduce our moderator today. Jenno Topping is an Academy Award nominated film producer. Her most recent films include Hidden Figures and Ford versus Ferrari, both of which received the Producers Guild of America nominations for Outstanding Producer of Theatrical Motion Pictures, in addition to receiving multiple Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture. Our thanks to our friends at Focus, our thanks to you, Jenno, and all of our panelists, and please, Jenno, take it away.
Hi, guys. Thank you for inviting me to do this. I love this movie so much, and I'm so excited to talk to you about it. There's some questions that I think I will put to the group, and then I might ask you guys individual questions. You know, every movie has its own journey and its own life, and particularly the ones that are really hard to get made. So I would love to hear from you guys a little bit about the inception and the birth of this film and how the script traveled its way through you guys and came to be. Where did it begin?
I guess I'll start.
Yeah.
Laura Kennedy, who unfortunately couldn't be with us on this forum today, panel, she and I both judged for the Nichols Fellowship Award. And she called and said, you know, I read this great script. And so I said, well, when you can share it, because you have an embargo for a while, I'd love to read it. So I read it and I just thought, okay, this is a fantastic idea for a movie. So then we worked with the writer, Jesse Chatham, for a bit, and then sent it to the very first director we thought of, Robin. And
I didn't know that.
you're the very first person that received the script.
Huh.
Yeah. Well, it was because you pay me on retainer.
I was going to say, I pay you really well. So yeah.
Say, let me introduce you to Allyn, meet Robin.
Exactly.
And Robin was interested, so she was shooting House of Cards, and I flew down there and met with her, and thus began the beginning of an incredible collaboration. And then for the next 4 months, we worked on the screenplay, we scouted, we created a budget and a schedule that then allowed us to go to some financiers that gratefully we ended up with Peter and Leah. And that was kind of a very quick connection too. It's not like we hung out there for a while. Peter and Leah are like, okay, we love this, which, as you know, Jenno, doesn't happen very often.
No, yes is not a common word, for sure. Can I just take you back one step, Allyn, and say, you know, I totally understand why you would have approached Robin, but I'd love to hear it in your own words, given that she hadn't done a film before. I think it's always such an interesting choice.
So I love House of Cards, and I've watched it from season 1, and I have a number of friends that have directed different episodes, and some of them multiple episodes. But from season 2 on, I began to notice that some of the episodes I liked the most were Robin's. And then it was really clear that Robin directs herself uncommonly well. It was just clear. So I'd had this little marker in my brain, like, boy, wouldn't I be lucky to have a movie that Robin would want to direct? And miracles happen.
And Robin, did you know that you wanted to be in it from the beginning?
No, that was never the intention. We really, we got financed so quickly, like Allyn said, and we had this very slim window in which to cast the movie. And we didn't have the time to take the risk to say, oh, could we get it cast in 48 hours before we got to pack our bags and get up to Alberta and start prepping. And, you know, we had talked about it ad nauseum over lunches, across tables with each other for over a year. What are the scenes? What tonally, what do we want them to be? And I would just kind of naturally act them out. Like, this is the way Edie would do it. And so at one point, I think it was you, Alan, I went to the restroom, I came back, and you and Kim Winther were whispering to each other, our AD, who's also a producer. And Alan just goes, why don't you just do it? And I was like, I don't want to be in front of this. I want to just direct this movie. It's such a beautiful message. I don't want to have two hats and distraction. And we didn't have a choice. And we literally just laughed in that moment. And I said, well, I'm going to be there anyway. Let's just do it. So it was never the plan.
I'm telling you right now, I don't know the truth, but I'm telling you it was Alan's plan.
What? You little whippersnapper.
Well, it was everybody. I mean, at some point, Robin, if you had really insisted that we had to cast somebody else in the movie, we would have said, okay, Robin, really put your director hat on and tell me somebody better than Robin Wright to play Edie, and we wouldn't have gotten. It would have been a list of nobody.
Huh.
True. And we were right, which is really amazing.
Yeah.
Very hard to imagine, as is the case with all great roles, very hard to imagine somebody else in the role. This movie was obviously incredibly hard to make because you guys made several creative choices to go for realism and as opposed to artifice. And in every movie journey, there are things which are your North Star, the things that are the most important to you, that are inviolate, that you just have to have. And there's always obstacles that come along the way, which sometimes move you off that path and cause you to either compromise or be creative and solve the problem a different way. Can you talk a little bit about what the North Stars of this film were? Like, what were the things that were so important to you? Creatively, choice-wise, and the places that you might have had to pivot as a result of the obstacles that came up?
Robin, I think that's you.
Yep.
I mean, the most important was to get the authentic feeling for the viewer of nature as a character in this movie. So we need all 4 seasons in their glory and in their brutality. And are we going to be able to get that in 29 days? That was A. And then we had the bizarre weather angels on our side. We were like, there's no way we're going to get winter. We're shooting this mid-September to mid-October. We're going to get spring, summer, fall. We'll come back in January. We'll get 2 days in the snow. And in the middle of October, we just got this dump of snow in the middle of autumn. And so we rejigged the schedule and shot everything in the winter, and then that snow melted, and there we were back in fall again. It was pure luck, because we were dealing with these extreme weather patterns every day anyway in Alberta. Where you couldn't adhere to a schedule. We changed our schedule about 47 times a day, right? It was constantly shifting. You couldn't depend on a fixed schedule because of the weather.
But I think location was one of our North Stars, obviously. Like, that was one of the most essential pieces of making this movie. And we had a lot of debate in prep about whether or not to build the cabin on a stage or have some sort of backup in the event that we did get that weather dump. But we all just kept coming back to the authenticity of being up on top of Moose Mountain in Alberta, Canada, and just being so in awe of everything around us and wanting to capture that on screen. And so we just went for it, and it didn't come without its challenges. As Robin said, everyone would be in t-shirts. It would be sunny in the morning. We were hanging out, having a great time. 2 hours later, the craziest windstorm you've ever experienced in your life, and we're evacuated off the mountain. So it was challenging, but
A 29-day schedule being shut down 3 times was a challenge.
And did you all stay? What happened when you got shut down? Did you all stay?
I mean, a lot of
I
the
was shut down by
time-
weather, not
Oh.
extended shutdown. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, where we just have to shut down for a couple of hours, but you'd have to run to base camp. Everybody was shuttled up to base camp, because where the cabin was situated it went down this steep hill into a valley, and then you'd see what her view is. So the Chinooks would come through that gulf, and everybody was ushered up to base camp above the cabin for safety. Like, get in your cars, get in your trailers, and just let the wind subside. But really, it was about the equipment and the crew members, how dangerous it was for them. I mean, holding like 3 guys trying to hold a light from, Annie M. It was like, it was
Yeah.
insane.
And
then
there were
Allyn and I
no,
slept on the mountain.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, say it again.
Allyn and I decided to stay, and Leah, you did it too when you were there.
yep.
We decided to stay at base camp in our trailers some of the nights, just to be able to be at one with nature and wake up with that sunrise and not hear planes and trains and automobiles. And really, we lived the movie that we shot.
Really interesting. One of the most beautiful choices I think that you guys made was, after the whole experience of that location and of that wilderness and of the brutality and the beauty, when she walks out and you realize, oh my God, it was so far, and yet it wasn't so far. She walked to town. So at first you're so surprised at the proximity, and then you realize it has this whole second wave of intensity for you, and you're like, oh my God, she put herself through that in that extreme situation, and the town was right there. Like, I think there was a really interesting, beautiful choice that you made in that last sequence following her walk to the town. And one of the other really amazing things about this movie is, I was realizing as I was watching it how few movies about wilderness and survival have female protagonists, and that in and of itself feels like such an awesome experience to watch a film with a female protagonist like this. But even one of the more radical choices, in a funny way, was your choice to absolutely unequivocally refuse sexual tension between the 2 leads. And there was an enormous love, obviously, and connection. But talk to me about how you constructed that emotional relationship and why you made that choice.
Well, that was in Jesse Chatham's draft. It was exactly that dynamic. And when I met Demian Bashir for the first time, we were on the phone. He said, I need to do this movie. And I was like, great, because I don't want anybody else. I said, come over. He walked in my house, and it was as if we'd known each other our whole lives. We felt like we were each other's long lost sibling. So we had that chemistry naturally from the day we met. We didn't really have to talk about it. He knew exactly who this character was. He knew what he needed to do for this woman, for a rebirthing. And we said one word to each other. He's like, just give me one word. Like, what is he to her, to you? And I said, he's her saint. That's all you need to know. And he was a teacher to her, but not a professor, And I just feel like he embodied that so beautifully.
Oh God, incredible performance.
Yeah, he's so great. He's got, his soul just emanates, right? Comes onto the screen in the sweetest eyes. And it was really hard for Demian to play the role because he moves like this all the time, and he talks a lot, and he's like he's a character. And so for him to be spare with words and not move, he should win the Academy Award. It's just, he's good.
But it's fascinating, Jenno, on the heels of your question, is quite a few of the reviews have said that they were so grateful that the movie didn't go down the path of sexual tension and whatever that would lead to. And it's interesting because I was thinking, as you just asked it, of course, with a female protagonist, we're used to the guy coming in and they have a big romance and he saves her. So it's interesting how that convention is something that we're chipping away at bit by bit. Because for this movie, it would have been such a cheap shot to
Totally.
have it be this consoling love that she found on the mountain. Well,
No, totally.
Yeah.
And I thought it was so delicate and beautiful. So producers spend a lot of time thinking about who they're making their movies for, who is their white hot core audience they're speaking to, and how will they be able to deliver this film to them and find them. Can you talk a little bit about why you guys decided to finance it and what made you know that it would find an audience and strike a chord?
Yeah, I mean, I think, one of the things that, like what you were just talking about, and I'm glad you brought up the question about their relationship, because the theme of this movie is that healing power of human connection, and that's what I think for both Leah and I resonated really deeply, is how powerful it was that that coming out of isolation, that one person could touch another one, and it doesn't have to be romantic, it doesn't have to be sexual, it can be, but in this case it's not. And that, I think, at least for me, it feels like such a universal truth that's going to resonate deeply with audiences, and that's what convinced us that the genuine feeling that it evoked.
And I also, obviously it goes without saying, Robin was such a huge piece of that. And there's so few actresses that have the courage and the strength and the physicality that Robin has, that when you read Edie on the page, it's just was such an obvious fit. And given how many people are fans of her work out there, it just felt like they would connect with her. And that, at least for me, I sort of feel like there's a wish fulfillment on some level in the story, where we all, especially at this moment in time, really desire disconnecting from everything and literally throwing our phones in the garbage and going out into nature and letting it all go and remembering why we were put on this planet. And I hadn't in my career read a script that really touched on that. And I was like, this is original, this is different, this is special. And if you put Robin Wright at the center of this, people will feel that connection and that power.
Robin,
and I think, and on top of the emotional level, I think what Leah was saying is so true. There's a really commercial element to the physical nature of this story, to going through this real adventure with Edie, is very cinematic.
There were so many incredible choices you made. One of my favorite moments in the movie is when she digs without looking to get the drawing of that her son had made to give it to him, and then such a short time later she goes back and is actually able to face the contents of that box, as opposed to not looking and digging around. And it was such an incredibly elegant way to track her emotional trajectory and what she was going through. Can you talk about some of the things that you found? How much was already there in terms of the script, and what were the things that you had to find visually, like that moment? I don't know if that's a moment that you guys created, that helped to communicate the raging pain of her interior life as it was changing during the course of the film.
Those moments were actually in the original draft. Of she sees it when she's unpacking, okay, put it back. She can't look at it when she extracts it from the box. And there comes a time, yes, third chapter, when you're ready to be available to it. It's not even about acceptance. Be available, then the acceptance has to come, and the acceptance comes at the end of the movie. So those beats Jesse wrote, and then Aaron Dignam just kind of filled in some dialogue scenes with me and Miguel, and the therapy scene in the beginning that was never in the original script. It was a real Rubik's Cube in the editing room, this movie. It went through how many iterations, you guys? It was, we put the front of the movie in the thing, and then let's flip it to the back, and then like extract it. And then we had other scenes of Edie's life in the past. And when we saw it together, flashing back outside of that one scene with her sister, which we need, you felt that you were being removed from going on the journey with her.
So more recreation occurred in post than probably happened in terms of change to the script in prep and production.
Well, we did that too.
We did that too, yeah.
I obviously, once you're prepping and then you decide to shoot at 8,000 feet at this incredible location, then you're constantly massaging the movie. And we literally only had 29 days. So we didn't have the flexibility of saying, oh, well, let's just shoot it and see if we need it. I mean, we really had to be incredibly disciplined about it. But one of the unique things that we had is that Peter and Leah and Robin and I saw the same movie. So the spine of it was always the same. So there was very little conversation about, well, there's this and there's that. It was like we all saw the goal, and luckily Focus did too. So it became more this kind of intense collaboration of how do we serve our location the best, our actress director, and she's very generous to say that it was all in the original script, but there are nuances, Robin, that you brought to this movie as an actress director. I'd be like, whoa, that's really smart. That you were living inside this movie and you would come up with things that were beyond what was on the page.
And I think there were, being up there and having the constant change of weather and all of that, there were a lot of natural moments that we were able to capture of Edie communing with nature. And even the bathtub moment, like we had to wait for the perfect sunset to happen. So there was a lot of rejiggering the schedule to capture that. And like the macro shots of her holding the ladybug or touching the sap or the way the light, there was a lot of, oh my God, we were all in awe of something. We have to capture this. And even though we had a really tight schedule, I feel like we did that successfully on a whim quite a few times. And it landed.
Was also our DP when he was doing handheld stuff. He would just be shooting something and then he'd go, oh my God, the light's moving over here. Robin, go over there and grab the sap on this tree. And he would change his lens and we would just grab anything and everything we could in those little moments when we weren't on sticks in the cabin lit, and because he slept in Edie's cabin pretty much the whole shoot, it was for that reason, so that he could capture, what if a storm came at 3 a.m? He could get up and do a time lapse shot of it or just film it stationary. So all of those vista shots that are weather at night, sunrise, sunset, middle of the night, the moon, that was him sleeping up on that mountain, capturing that at all hours of night and morning.
He did a tremendous job. So, he's so talented. Is there anything that felt like the one that got away? All really great directors and producers I know are such greedy pigs and they can never get enough. And they scrap and scrap for more and more. Is there something that you still wish you could have gotten?
Another 10 days of shooting.
I was gonna
more time.
Yeah.
Peter, you nailed it. Another 10 days of shooting would have been great. Yeah. Because we did have to, as you always do on this kind of film, you have to compromise and you say, what are your absolute priorities? Because you're going to have to lose something, whether it's something involving nature, like, oh, we didn't get to go down to that other location that we had never seen in the movie before, had to lose that. God knows what it could have been with 10 days. Would we have needed it? You know what I mean? That's in hindsight. You're like, it kind of works now.
Yeah.
I don't know that we're missing anything.
I think
And we actually cut fat out, right?
Yeah, I mean, we were incredibly blessed by the weather. We never would have guessed we could have had winter like that. Like all of us, we have an allergy to fake snow. We are not going to do it. So we were squirreling away our acorns to come back and shoot in January. And as Robin said, we had a deluge. And I think if we hadn't been given the gift of being able to get 4 seasons, that would have felt like a miss. If we'd had to fake the leaves or the snow, or only because, as we've been saying, the nature was a vital element to the movie. So that was really lucky. I mean, even though it would have been great if we could have given Robin 10 more days, at least the goals of the screenplay were accomplished. I don't think we felt like we missed a target.
Allyn, you call the weather good luck. I call it great producing.
That's because you have a better communication to God, clearly, Peter, than the rest of us.
Let it snow.
Yeah, let it snow.
Yeah. Alan's relationship to God is clearly broken down, but yours is intact. Will you talk a little bit about the music, which was just so interesting and such a great choice, and that crazy Tears for Fears song, and just your whole concept of the movie going in, and how much was baked in from the beginning, and how much did you discover?
You want to start?
No, you start.
So when we first started prepping, not physical prep, Allyn came to LA, we were having meetings, and she said, have you heard of this trio called Time for Three? She sends it to me. I listened to 3 songs of theirs, which were in the assembly of the movie for a year and a half, because I just couldn't let it go. And every time I heard it, it just moved me beyond. I either was crying or just incredibly emotional. And I just kept seeing that music, those kinds of strings, the way those boys played the strings. They're so raw. And Allyn took me to see them live in New York. And I was like, it's a no-brainer. We have to. They had never composed before. So it was really her saying, you got to listen. I think this is the music for this movie. And boy, was she right. Seeing them live, where were we? In an old church in New York City, up in Harlem, in a crypt. And they were playing unplugged. And you're just weeping. So watching them play to picture is like watching Julian Schnabel take a blank canvas, and they're so in it. They're moving with every beat, every shot of the eyes of the character. Incredible. And then Ben Soleil kind of orchestrated over because he had composed before, and I knew him from years ago, his music rather. And he is a master of sounds, because I really wanted, yes, the violins and the bass, but I wanted something that you questioned. Is that the wind, or is that an instrument? Is that her heart beating? Is that her intake of breath, or is that an instrument? So he added that layer on top of what they did. And they had worked together before, which was so ironic, on another project.
Really, really beautiful. And the Tears for Fears song?
Yeah, how did that happen, guys? You
We had a list of songs we could afford.
right.
Oh, that old trick. Yeah.
No, Leah's actually the one. We had a list, and then Leah threw herself into listening to track after track after track.
I did.
And it was a yeoman's job, and came up.
Actually, the lyrics of that song are remarkably appropriate to this
Oh
movie.
my God, completely. That's the irony in this crazy pop song.
Yeah.
Yeah, really heartbreaking.
And then the second you hear Demian sing it, you're like, no brainer.
Yeah. What were the movies you guys talked about in terms of your references? Both tonally, visually, what were your touch points
Out of Africa was one. We talked about out of Africa a lot in prep.
And Diving Bell and the Butterfly, Robin referenced a lot.
And Never Cry Wolf was another one.
A lot of Terrence Malick movies.
I was just gonna say, that's
Terrence
what
Malick. Yeah. Black Stallion. I kept watching that. And Jeremiah Johnson, just for the simplicity of the way they shot in the 70s. Because they were shooting in the snow. They were doing big, wide, epic shots of just Redford walking across the frame for 5 minutes. So I really studied that about how to allow patience. Cut quickly on certain things. That's why the first 15 minutes, our editors were amazing because they made it just move like a juggernaut. Like get through that first act, but still be engaged. What happened to this woman? Why did she choose to go there? And then once second act comes along, it's a different rhythm. So we were talking about the 3 acts of the film and the different rhythms of those acts.
Mm-hmm. Really beautiful. Did you?
And
guys-
that's where I think that Robin really showed her bravery as a director, both in the making of the movie and in the editing room, because as she alluded to before, there was a lot that was stripped away in the editing room, and she was really willing to go there as with just the quietness and the simplicity of the story, and to live in that solitude for a really long time, which is something not every first-time feature director would have the confidence or the bravery to do. And I think it's a bold testament to her vision for the film and her directing ability.
Yeah, here. Robin, you clearly have the bug, right? This is going to happen again. You're going to direct again.
Yeah, I love it. I really, really love it. I love working with everybody. That's why, because being an actor for over 35 years, it's like, okay, I know how to do that thing that you do, but I'm alone over here and I want to be with all the people. So that's what it feels like. You want to collaborate, and the joy of coming to set every day or going to the production office every day during prep, and production designer knocks on your door and goes, I've got a great idea. And you're like, oh my God, that's genius. Never even thought of it. Everybody's doing that. Mm-hmm. So we're all architects of this building. It's never just you directing. And what a gift that is, that you're building something together. It's not just you and your trailer saying the lines in the mirror all day, memorizing your lines, And so, yes, I have the bug, and I'm going to go direct Ozark, the show.
Oh, great.
Which will be so much fun.
Were you guys able to test this movie, or did the pandemic? Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it's quite amazing that I keep saying that the first test was our Sundance premiere, and I was on my couch in my pajamas. So, no, we still really haven't seen it with
an audience.
Yeah,
that's so crazy.
So weird.
We did do some friends and family screenings in New York, some very small ones. And I remember, I feel like I looked back at those and thought, like, someone must have had COVID in that room that week before everything shut down, and we got really lucky.
It was just a little gift, a parting gift.
Yes, exactly.
But it's true, we've never seen it with more than, 25 people?
Yeah, and we saw it on a flat screen television the size of yours, Peter. Yeah. That's as big as we saw it.
That's wild. Really wild.
The hardest things, speaking of COVID, is finishing the film remotely. We were supposed to do all the post in New York, so we were all there. These guys live there. And then next thing you know, we're all housebound, and then Robin had to finish it remotely. So even as you're talking about Time for Three, the fact that you could direct them remotely, you're at home. It was the craziest way to finish the movie. But Miss Resilience Robin here, you just kept going at it.
Incredible. Well, mazel tov, you guys. Is there anything else that I can ask you that you can tell me? That would be great.
Want me to tell you all Peter's secrets?
Yeah, I'd love to hear them.
You know, we were really blessed on this movie that you can tell by the camaraderie here. I mean, there were so many difficult moments, but we just we enjoyed each other so much. We all worked hard. It was such a fluid and blessed collaboration, which, as we know, doesn't always happen. So I look back like,
the happy experiences usually yield horrible movies. Wait, I want to ask you guys one more question. How do you guys make your decisions in terms of your financing? Like, what were the ways in which this fit into the box, and what were the ways it was aberrational? Is there a commonality behind the things that you are drawn to in terms of financing?
Peter, you want to take that one?
Well, I mean, I think that, we approached the movie, from the producerial standpoint, we approached the movie, like I said, from the human aspect of the story and what we thought would resonate. From a financing perspective, it was about, the passion for the story, which felt like would translate to a passion in an audience. How do we, and then figuring it out, what was the most appropriate budget for this. I will say that, we took this movie to Cannes to try to put together all the financing in a sort of typical indie way of selling individual territories. And we were meeting with great success and a lot of meetings with buyers from all over the world. And then Focus stepped in and with extraordinary passion just said, wait a minute, no, we need this movie. We need it for the whole world. We're in. And they've been these amazing partners from that moment, from that early breakfast in Cannes, where Peter Kajowski and everybody on the team just walked in and said, "Oh my God, we read this script last night. Where do we sign?" And that passion has taken us right to today and beyond, and with great support. So
very cool. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much. This was awesome. Thank you for the opportunity. And congrats. Good luck with it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jenno.
Bye. Okay. Bye.
Bye.